Welcome back to Fearlyss and Unfiltered, the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to Vanessa Crues. I just wrapped up the conversation, and candidly, I can tell you that we spent a lot of time talking about community and confidence. What I love about Vanessa is that she has years of coaching, speaking, and leadership experience under her belt, and she approaches it all as how can I help other people in the next phase of their story? How can I help them build confidence? And she talks a little bit about that. And the neuroscience behind it all is mind blowing. She gives us a little bit of insight into that too. Vanessa has also written her own children's book, which was based on her journey in motherhood and the story that she went through, what she experienced when her son was born. And now she has her own coaching program that's starting in January of 2026 called The Author of What's Next. I was blown away by how she explained that to me. So you'll hear a little bit more about that too. Let's get into it. When you look back on your career and all of the different pivots that you've had and how you got into what you're doing now, is there any like invisible string that you can see looking back that led you to where you are now?
Good question. I think the invisible string was always like finding work in service of others. And then I tried a lot of different things along the way. So I always knew like I volunteered for like women organizations and children and animals. Like I've tried a lot of different things. And so when I think back, I think there's always this invisible string of like being in service. I grew up watching Oprah. So I always was trying to find my purpose and like, how can I be of service to people? But I think I always knew that that was the work that I wanted to do was like helping others. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like, but I would say that was probably the biggest line through everything.
Yeah. So, and that's very clear just looking at your background. And I loved seeing it's like, as soon as I read your information, I was like, okay, Vanessa is multi-passionate and she is awesome. So, has there been anything through those various changes other than the service to others? Is there any sort of like value that you have as an internal check to yourself? Like, if I'm going to do this, it needs to be in service of others and it also needs to check this box.
Yeah, I think getting really clear on what your values are is really important. And obviously, everybody values something a little bit different. So I think it is really important to have those checks throughout your life of like, what do I value and what do I want to be all about? And being really clear with yourself in that reflection of like, what are my values? I know mine was always authenticity. I was never like a fake girly of like, I could put on a face and pretend that I'm something that I'm not. I've always been told that I have a lot of emotion in this face. So authenticity and knowing like what I am being able to be myself and live in that integrity of like, this is who I am and this is how I show up in the world. And that being really I didn't always know what it was, like, what are you all about? But I knew that it was like, I'm me and I'm unapologetically Vanessa in whatever version that I was throughout all the different years. But I think that like authenticity and integrity have always been really important. Like being somebody who is what they say they are was always very important to me.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I actually, one of the first things I lead with when I bring on new clients into my marketing agency is, who are you? Give me 3 words to describe you. And I have the rule that it's not allowed to be your title or mom or anything like that. It has to be words about what you care about and your values. And I love that you are able to answer that so easily. Yeah. Because most people can't. It's like I have to prompt them through a series of questions to get them to come up with how they would describe themselves. And that was really the catalyst of why I started working in the personal branding field. And so I think that's a good segue because typically when I do these interviews, I talk to people a lot about their foundation. And it seems like you have that set. It's almost like the core of the work that you do now. So before you got into everything that you're doing, the coaching that you're doing, was there a certain habit or lifestyle that you've held on to from early in your career to now that has served you in your time building your company?
Habits. I am a continuous learner. So I think that that's really important is being super curious and like never just settling for the next thing. But I love reading, obviously. I love learning. So I think continuous learning throughout your life is really foundational because life is beautiful and you get thrown all these different things that you're never going to expect. So there can be fun with it. I think having fun, I tell my clients all the time, like, this can also be fun. Like, yes, the self reflective work and self discovery is like, but it also could be so much fun and like getting to know yourself and like, what am I all about? So I think being physically active, having time for yourself, like that you are moving your body.
Mhm.
I say this with my clients too. Sometimes, like going for a walk and talking, you get that clarity and like are able to just think differently than just sitting. And so I try to teach that to my kids too, that we move our bodies and we try to be strong in our bodies. And so that is stayed, I think it's kept me sane through everything. Like when I'm having a really stressful day, going and moving my body. And that doesn't need to be something like insane, but just going for a walk, like being outside, being with nature, that is something I know I will always do, and it's a habit that I have to have is, like, move my body.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I love that you said you share that with your clients. It got me wondering when your clients come to you, they are obviously driven, right? They want to get from A to Z. What is when they come to you looking for help, what are they typically looking for? And the second part of this question is in the area that you help them, does it typically surprise them?
You're absolutely right. In my coach training and my practice, it's always like coach the person, not the story, like the story that they're saying that it's all about. And I would say that the biggest theme that it honestly almost always is a lack of confidence.
Mm,
As simple as that sounds, most all of my clients lack confidence in like their abilities, their ability to talk about themselves, like we mentioned earlier, their
mhm,
abilities to see what skills and strengths and values and value that they bring to an organization, or just like transitional skills of like, you did this before. So obviously you could take that into this next thing. Or they're super driven and they've gotten into universities and they've gotten all these degrees and they've done all these things. And then they're like, but I have nothing to offer the world. And you're like, wait, so I think I see confidence so much and it shows up in such different ways. And when I will say that back to somebody of like, I think this is a lack of confidence, they're like, no, I'm confident. I could do all these things. But then I'm like, but that's not actually what I'm hearing. Like I'm hearing such a like lack of your inner clarity and confidence around your abilities and what you offer the world. So I see that a lot. I think it's always like the one thing. It's never what they say it is.
yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Like, why do you think so many people, particularly women, deal with that confidence issue?
Ooh, girl, how long do we have? I think it's so many things. I think it's so many things. I think it's like societally. I think it's just pressures. I think it's
Mhm,
our education system. I mean, I like, being a mom, and I know you shared that you are as well. I try to think of like, where does this start so that I can curb this and not have my kids suffer from the same thing. But that is why I also do the work that we do, because I think there's a lot of pressure to be away, but not the other side of that self reflection of like, what am I all about? What are my values and
mhm,
how do I want to be perceived? Especially with social media and all these things. It's like glitz, glam, all of this camera, all this stuff on you. But it's like, okay, who are you actually? And I wish we did more of that work like at a younger age to lay that foundation. Like you can grow
mhm,
and change and value and be about different things all throughout your life. But what do you want to be about? Like what do you want to be
yeah,
known for? I think it goes into branding, like what do you want people to know about you? And and I think a lot of my students too, and this is culturally very significant too, is that in different cultures we don't show this in the same way. So that is another aspect of it. So just being show like if you're from the South, like be seen, not heard, like women are told that. Like I said, I could go on and on and on and on and on about this, but I think it starts at an early age of just pressure of performing
mhm,
without the other side of like reflecting and being proud of accomplishments, even if it isn't perfect, like it doesn't need to be perfection. It's just like, okay, I tried, like I teach my kids that all the time. Like we can keep trying. It doesn't need to be just like, oh my God, like let's just keep trying and do our best. And our best can be our best, but we don't often recognize that. So I think there's a lot of factors.
apologize. That was a loaded question, and I was just I said it because you were talking about confidence being the main issue. And I see that in my line of work as well, because I'm asking people to show up on social media. And it is always from the women that I would never expect
It
it
doesn't
from.
make sense.
Like
You're
the
like,
CEO of a company,
yeah,
and she does not want to record a social media video, and I am like, there's a disconnect here.
yeah,
Where in our society did we go wrong? And similarly to you, I think about my kids. I have two sons, 3 and 5 years old, and I also have heard all of the details about how, like, what they are learning now, specifically the 5-year-old, is what is going to be impressed upon him upon like throughout his life. And I'm like, how do we make sure that the next generation doesn't face these same issues, knowing that they are going to be on social media? They are going to have like their lives just plastered for everybody to see at any given point. I worry about that a lot. And that's where that question came from.
yeah. No, I think it's a great question. I think it needs to be, I think just because you're thinking about it, it shows what an intentional mom you are and how different it will show up for our kids because we're having different conversations with our kids than our parents had with us. Like I know I wasn't having these deep thought provoking conversations with my
Yeah.
parents, but I try to do it with my kids. And I think that'll just have them show up differently because we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, it kind of always goes back to your values and just taking that time to self reflect. Because
Hmm.
to your point, you can rise to be the highest level of whatever organization, but then not also be able to articulate what you're all about. Like who are you? Oh, I'm a CEO. I'm this. I'm a mom. I'm a friend. I'm blah, 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 blah. But no, like what do you value? Like what's important to you? And so I think if you don't take the time to identify that for yourself, you don't know, and you're not taking the time to identify that for yourself, and it's never too late to start that work. I think it's always fun at no matter what stage in your life you're exploring this, because some people don't do it until they're like, "Oh, okay, well, now I'm retiring, and now who am I? What is my
Yeah.
life all about?" And it's like, "Okay, let's start then." I don't think you know until you take that time, and that's uncomfortable, and I know you experience that probably as well, where people feel uncomfortable lifting up the rug to themselves, like, "Who am I
Yeah.
and what I'm all about?" That's where it's like, I think it's like easy to stay behind a wall of like, I don't need to know this. I don't need like, "Nah, I'm fine. I'm confident. If everybody thinks I look good on the outside, they must think everything's fine on the inside."
Hmm. Yeah. I think people have that aha moment of like, okay, I know that this version of me is not working anymore, or I'm ready for this version. And a lot of times people kind of get stuck in the limbo of like, they know better, but they don't know how to do better. And is it fair to say oftentimes that's when they come to you?
Yes, 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 yes. And I am fortunate enough to have like personal clients, but then I also work, at the university. So I work with
Mhm.
students who they have to meet with me. So I love having those conversations when they're like, no, 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 it's fine. And then I'm like, okay, but it's okay to be stuck. I think
Mhm.
when we're saying the word stuck, it feels so all consuming and overwhelming that most people, to your point, they don't even know where to start and then they think that they have to be at step Z. And you're like, no, it could just be a conversation. The fact that you're feeling this stuckness, that you're at least reaching out for a discovery call or you're talking to your girlfriends or your friends about it, that's step one. And we need to recognize like that's a big, courageous step one is like admitting I'm not happy anymore. Like I feel stuck.
Yeah.
This isn't it. Like what else is out there? And then taking that small step. And I wish I could tell everybody this that it only needs to be a small baby step, like the first baby step. That's all it needs to be. You don't need to like perform at the opera. You just need to take a one curious Google search of how do I find a different. But I think people get overwhelmed with thinking they have to figure it all out before they ask for help. And I tell people all the time, like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to know what you wanted to do. And it's okay to start that conversation. That's a big, bold first step.
Yeah. I love that. So, what was that internal meter for you when you realized that you were going to move from what you were doing previously to even you're getting your master's or going for your coaching certification? What was it, a big like aha moment, or was it a little just inner?
I have a funny story around this. So I have forever, like I said, been asking this question. I grew up watching Oprah. I love Oprah. She was always like, find your purpose, right? Like, do this. So that question was always in me, but I didn't have a me or anybody that I knew of that like could have a different conversation. And so I just was like, struggling by myself for forever. I got married and my husband is the most supportive and he would be like, "Okay, what about this?" And so the funny story is like I was always just like, "I don't know what to do. Like I'm not happy." Like I'd start a new job and I'd be good and then I'd get a promotion and it'd be fine and then I'd be like, "Okay, I hate everything about this and I don't feel like this is the way to live." And we were in a conversation where he like pulled out job titles from like A to Z. And he was like, "What about an air traffic controller?" And I was like, "What? Like, why would I do that?" And so I like was like, "Oh my God, I need to approach this in a different way." So again, it was that silent yearning of like, I know I need to approach this in a different way, but I just didn't even know where to go. And then I had my son, and everything with having a son with special needs was life changing. Like, I was
Mm.
like, okay, I can't stop, just keep asking this question because like life goes by like that. And it's so vulnerable and scary. And I don't want to just live my whole life being like, I don't know, and I'm never going to solve this. So I tried a different approach. And I personally saw like a career counselor, but she was like a therapist. And so we worked together and I came to her just like crying my eyes out about like, there's got to be something else. Like, this is what I love doing. This is how I like helping people. This is what I want to do in life. But I know that at the core of this, like, value of family was really big for me and being there for my kid and not having a job that took me away from being fully present for everything that he needed in his life. And so I was just like crying my eyes out. And she did a lot of work around values as well. And in like our third session, she was like, "Have you ever thought about being like a coach?" And I was like, "I don't know what a coach is, like a sports coach. No, I'm not going to be a sports coach." And she was like, "No, I get like these notifications," and she was a therapist. She's like, "I get these coach training schools all the time. And everything that you're telling me about like what you value, how you want to contribute to the world, how you love to help people, da, 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 da." She's like, "I think you'd be really good at this." I literally like left that session. We met like every other week. And by the time I met with her again, I was like, I found a school. I signed up. I'm being a coach. I'm done. Like I finally knew what it was. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that there was this career out there that could match all the things. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work too, is sometimes we don't even know what we don't know. And when you have different conversations, you can find answers to things. And it could be so perfect and it could be right there in front of your face. And you just didn't even know it was something that existed that could light you up and really excite you. That's why I love having these conversations with other people.
You're like her favorite client because you took what took what she said and
And
did
ran with
it
it.
instead of just thinking about it.
Yeah, she was like,
That's
"I've never had
awesome.
this happen before." I was like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm good." I was like, "This is great. And bye." She was like,
You're
"This
like, I
will
did
never
my
happen."
homework. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Life changing.
So you mentioned your son and how that just gave you a completely different perspective shift. I think that when we have kids, we know something like that is probably going to happen, but we don't know what it's going to look like or how it's going to feel. What did it feel like for you?
Great question. I think a little backstory is my husband and I tried forever to get pregnant and it wasn't happening. And then we finally got pregnant. We thought, okay, this will be easy now. And newsflash, spoiler alert, wasn't easy. My son was born with a rare syndrome. So when he was born, he needed to be transferred to another hospital with a NICU and had his first two surgeries when he was 2 days old. And so that is just like, what in the world is actually happening moment of like, I don't even know. So this question of like career was always there, but that was like, oh my gosh, my whole life purpose changed to how can I be here for this like innocent little baby who just needs me. Like it's my whole, like there was literally nothing in the world that mattered but being there for him. And I was fortunate enough to be able to be there for him through his NICU stay and through that knowing like this is now a thing. That question never stopped being there of like, what are we going to do then? Okay. Like, what are you going to do in your life? Like what, like it was always a nagging at me of like, I really want to find this purpose and this work for me. And although it sounds like glamorous, it was like, I left that conversation with my counselor, found a school, but also was working full time, dealing with a special needs baby. And then I was going to school at night. So it wasn't like I'm doing this, quitting everything. Here I am now now in this new thing. Like this is like a 5-year process. I'm in year 5 of now of still discovering it, but I knew the direction that I was going. And so every other step forward was in alignment with how can I show up better to serve my clients as a coach? How can I show up better to serve my clients in my own self work so that I can be there and be the best person for them and supporting them on their journeys? So every decision has been in alignment with that because I knew where I was going. So everything felt so clear like, oh, okay, I'll network in these communities. I'll join these boards. I'll get this degree. I'll go and get this other certification. Cause it was like, oh, yeah, this is all now very clear, but it's been a process. It wasn't an overnight thing whatsoever. And that I think everybody needs to remember is like, it's cool to get that clarity, but don't think that your life is going to change overnight. You're going to have all that doubt and all that question and all your ugly insecurities and limiting beliefs will come up and
Mhm.
make you just be like, oh gosh, I know nothing about what I'm doing. And I don't think that ever stops. I think that's this beautiful gift of life, that you get to have that roller coaster and experience all the highs and lows of it.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to publicly applaud you for doing that work,
Thank
especially under the circumstances. I can relate to the whole NICU stay and airlifting to the hospital. We went through that as well. My answer to that question is like, that was the pivotal moment of like, what am I doing this for? Why am I not doing the thing that is going to serve me, serve my family in the long run when
Right.
nothing else matters?
Nothing matters.
It's hard to like match that clarity. I like how you described it as clarity unless you've experienced it and then know what to do with it too.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I love that you're using it to help people. And I want to talk a little bit about that now. So you shared something about the author of What's Next. So tell us a little bit about that and who it's for.
Yeah. So I, again, am on a never ending journey of self discovery. And I think it's fun. I think I've met other coaches. I love being a part of coach communities because you get to be in space with people who have the same kind of crazy as you. And we all like, I remember being at one thing where somebody was like, oh, didn't know I was signing up for a lifelong career of just always like lifting up the rug and seeing what I'm dealing with. But
Yeah.
okay. So I am on that forever journey of like, what else? What else? What else can I learn? What else can I grow? How can I be a better mom, wife, friend, manager, anything? So I've always been on that journey. And I have, in that journey, been a part of some amazing communities. And this year, I was a part of one. And the minute it ended, I joined another. And then the minute that one ended, I joined another. And I have recently moved to Arizona. So community was something I was really missing. Like all of our family and friends and everything was in Texas, and we had built a beautiful community there. And then moving as an adult who's working and doing all the things and has kids, I was like, oh man, I am not intentionally prioritizing making friends. And friends are very important to me. I think it's good to have, your husband and your kids, but you need time with your girls and like just other time. And so that's why I've joined all these communities and I love them so much. And in this never ending journey of what do I want to be about? What is the space I want to create? What is the work that I want to contribute to the world? This feels like the most natural next step for me is creating my own community around this self-reflective work. I think with everything going on in the world nowadays, like people are hungry for community and like safe spaces where we can encourage each other and support each other and have fun, deep conversations. And so that's what I was like, what is it for me? And I have published my own kids book and I love saying that I'm an author. And I tell that story to a lot of people and they're like, oh, I always wanted to write a book. And I'm like, like you can, I did it. You could do it.
Yeah.
So that title came to me of like the author of What's Next because you are the author of your own story. I tell that to my clients all the time. I'm like, you are the lead character. You're the main person. This is your book to write. This is your chapter, whatever it might be. And so this is a fun, like 2025 self reflection leading into 2026 of setting some clear intentions around what do you want 2026 to be all about? I know that coming to the end of the year and starting a new one, we can feel like I want to change, but again, I don't know where to start. And so I hope to create this space for people to just come and be like, we don't have to, we can figure it out together, But I think having community around that, having a little accountability around that and fun. I like to laugh. I like to have fun. It's not going to be like anything too serious, but you might cry. I don't know. I'm here for all of it. I just really love having these deeper conversations. And so that is kind of in a nutshell. I know that was lengthy, but kind of in a nutshell what it is all about. It's a 6-week program to set you up for success in 2026.
Is there a specific start date for it? Or is
January
it
13th.
13th? If someone is listening to this and they are nodding their head and they're like, yes, girl, I feel you. I hear this from everybody. So there's a space for what you're doing, because I hear this from every female entrepreneur. Like, I need the community. Like, I need it
Yeah.
right now. And it's that same thing of, where do I go? I'm an adult with a busy life with kids. Where am I supposed to find this? And we're all looking for it. So I love that you're building it. Where can someone go to get more information for this program?
Yeah, they can check out my website. So there is all the details on Vanessa Crues, CRUES.com. I have all the details, and I am actively sharing too in any space that I can where you can find me. And it is, again, a 6-week program. But on top of that, there is, like, if you want more directed, like one-on-one time, there's an opportunity to do that as well. This is something that a lot of people want, and then they don't even know where to start. But I say, like, especially if you have young people who are watching your every step, making time for yourself is so incredibly important.
Mm,
And taking that time to say, like, I am important, and taking care of my mental health and my physical health is important, because you are setting the stage for what your little people are looking at. And I think that can go to the confidence piece of, like, always taking time and showing them what a healthy life practice looks like. And I think this can fit into that, and giving yourself permission to take that time for yourself.
yeah, that's a really good point. So you talk a lot about brain science and old patterns and how you help people build momentum. And as we were talking, I was thinking about, like, yes, I can relate to everything she's saying. Well, can everybody else? And again, I said this earlier, we know better, but we don't know how to do better. So what is the science behind that? What is our brain doing to keep us stuck on these patterns? And if there's like one thing that somebody can do to make a leap in getting rid of an old pattern that they don't want present anymore, what would that look like?
Great question. I love, and I think it is really empowering to know how your brain works, and to separate that from, this isn't a me flaw,
Hmm.
because there's nothing wrong with you. What your brain is doing is being lazy. Like, your brain doesn't want to exhaust energy on things that, like, take up energy, because it wants to be lazy. And I think that was the most empowering thing that I learned. I was like, I'm not lazy. My brain is, like, telling me, don't do that. Don't do that. It'll be uncomfortable. It'll be weird. You're going to feel awkward. Everything's going to suck in that space. Stay over here. Stay safe. Stay calm. Like, it's okay. Everything's pretty and sweet over here. And that is your brain just being lazy. And so I think that's the most powerful first step, is when those thoughts come up, because we all have them. I mean, we're having thousands of thoughts a second, is recognizing, like, this is my brain being lazy and telling me to stay small, because it doesn't want to exude energy. This isn't me being lazy. This isn't a problem with me that I, like, can't achieve my goals, because I'm sure if you had a conversation with me, I'd show you a million goals that you've accomplished for yourself. And so, number one is taking that pause of, like, this is my brain. This isn't me. I can override this, because what
Hmm.
I do love is, like, our brain, like the concept of neuroplasticity. We're
Good.
always learning. We're always growing. You can build new pathways at any moment. There isn't an age. Science has debunked that. Like, you can learn until the day you die. So, number one, your brain's being lazy. Number two, you can create a new pathway to success. And that can happen in any second of any day. Like, you can start that, but that recognition is powerful, because you can pause and then go, okay, what is a new response that I want? And then the more you pause and recognize, like, okay, that's not me, that's my brain. Let me pause and recalibrate. You're building that new neural pathway. And then it's like a road, like a dirt road, and then it gets paved, and then it's a cement road. And it's like, oh no, I'm not falling into my old ways. I built this very crazy highway that is very strong, going towards me achieving my goals. But again, that isn't something that, like, can just happen overnight. So giving yourself grace of like, I just want to start. I want to start doing something different. What's the smallest little start that I can do is maybe just that recognition of like, is this me or is this my brain? Oh, okay. My brain's being lazy, right? Okay. Now what do I want to do with this? What's the next little thing? And I think community in that is really important too. Like, because we can have all the momentum and get really excited, but even there's science behind how your brain, once you like get real close, will be like, let's stop. So that's why I think it's really fun to learn about how your brain works, because it's like, wait, this is just doing everything to keep my body like running, not like really actively working against me achieving success. It wants me to do that, but it's just too much energy. Okay.
So I'm fascinated by the brain. This is a new topic to me. It was almost like I was super into manifestation, and then I realized that there was actual like a neurological reason and that we could blend all of these things together.
Yeah.
When did you start to learn about the science of the brain specifically and start bringing that into your practice?
So again, I think that is really fun once you joining communities, I will say is always going to be my bottom line.
Yeah.
I joined the International Coaching Federation chapter in Austin, and I loved going and networking with other coaches. And they brought in this guy that I absolutely love, and I will plug him, James Garrett with Brain by Design. And he came and introduced the concept of like neuroscience in coaching. And I don't think I had ever heard about like neuroscience in that way before. And I nerded out. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like just geeked out like, oh, this is so fascinating. And he similarly geeked out on this and created all these programs around it. And he creates a really beautiful space for coaches or practitioners or anybody who's just interested in this to explore what neuroscience is and how do our brains work and like, how should we think about this and what does the science say and how is it evolving? And he creates a space of just having these conversations with like-minded people who are interested in neuroscience. And so I learned about him there. And then I joined a course that he was offering in like neuroscience and coaching Brain by Design. And I loved every aspect of that. So in learning more and more and more, I try to, because it can be overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is so much like your brain is like, that's so much information.
Yeah.
So I tried to dumb it down in that, like, what is the basic of what's going on? Because obviously I could use all the nerdy terms, but then people's eyes gloss over and they're like, cool, cool, whatever. So I try to make it understandable and digestible with my clients of like, this is what's actually happening. And then two, like setting yourself up for success and achieving your goals. Like there's so many little fun tips and tricks that you can learn to help set yourself up for success. And I love when my clients will be like, you taught me that thing and I like do that all the time and it helps me so much. And I'm like, yes, it's so fascinating and so helpful because I think at one time said this, like we have this computer that's running our whole body and we never got like the user manual for it. Like you're never really taught how your brain does all the things, but it keeps your entire body running. And we should know more about that. So he creates a really fun space. And like, how do you understand this? And like, what is the user manual to work with your brain instead of against it? Because that's where I feel like you can feel a lot of
Mhm.
struggle when you're just trying all
Mhm.
these things, but you're not getting results and you're just fighting what your brain naturally does. So how can you, like how I work with my clients and like, how can you work with how your brain is going to fight you to set yourself up for success?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think I have a new hyperfixation now, and it's learning about that because I like to
I mean, he
understand.
is like, I love this man. I've never met him in person, but like, he lives in Boston and he is like the sweetest, kindest, most fun. And he has like the best community of other people because I think the energy that he brings to the space is just that curiosity and the playfulness and like, wow, this can be fun. So I'll send you his link because his stuff is really, really just, you could just, I think if you see him and you experience him, you'll be like, oh, yep, that's what she was talking about. Like he's just such a kind human being who's trying to, create a space of just like understanding how to work with our brain and like making neuroscience digestible. And it's really so fascinating.
Yeah, I love that you're building on that because a lot of people, I can think of many people in my life who I'm like, you could learn a lot from therapy, but they're never going to go to therapy. But if you can say to them, like, this is what's happening and this is why, you can't
Right.
argue with that.
No. And once you know something, the science behind that is like once you know something, you can't unknow it. You can't
Mm.
delete it from your brain. So planting that seed and being like, you're welcome. You
Oh,
now know this, even if you don't want to. It's kind of
That's
funny.
fabulous. Well, thank you for sharing that. I will put that link in the show notes. I'll put the link to your program in our show notes. I can't wait to share this because I know that people can learn so much from you. To wrap it up, if you are going to give an entrepreneur listening to this who knows that they're ready for the next step, if you
Yeah.
could sum up everything we've spoken about today and just give them one tiny piece of advice, what would it be?
Find a safe person to have in your corner. That's not always going to be a family or a friend, but if it is a family member or a friend, don't go at it alone. Like, have somebody that you can share all of your deepest desires and dreams to, that don't like will be like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And I think that would always be my number one thing. I obviously could advocate for it being a coach, but if it's a therapist, if it's just a mentor, if it's just somebody else, because we have all of this up here. And a lot of the times it'll just stay up here if we don't get it out of our mouth and into the universe. And I think if you're already at that cusp of like, I have something to share with the world, don't give up on it. Just share it. Like, try with one person and then be like, oh, okay, the world didn't fall apart because I said this out loud. What more can I do? I feel like we just so often keep all these things to ourselves and we're nervous about taking that first step. But find a trusted person that you can share your dreams with and don't stop because the world needs whatever you're offering.
That's great advice. Thank you, Vanessa. It was such an honor to get to know you better and share this with everybody in the Fearless and Unfiltered community. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such an honor. I really appreciate you creating this space.